tyranny and liberty. There you are. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my name's Ron Grignall. It's a great speech and a great book. I'd read Julian Simon's book years ago, and he was one of the, you're like his follow-on, I guess, right?
It's a hard act to follow, but
yeah,
I'm trying.
That was one of the questions I had. Who are the heroes, the resistors of this anti-humanism, both institutions and people over the years that you found?
Well, of course, you mentioned one of them, Julian Simon, who was one of the few voices that stood up and said the Club of Rome is bunk, when every piece of established rational opinion, the New York Times, etc., said this is a necessity. People who are denying it are deniers. Okay, the ultimate of heroes. I mean, well, of course, Norman Borlaug, the architect of the Green Revolution, who basically his work is what threw all these predictions of Paul Ehrlich that India had to be thrown in the trash can were bunk. Okay, but the Green Revolution, and in general, it is the inventors. Both the scientists who create the knowledge, the inventors who create inventions based on the knowledge, and the entrepreneurs who put these things into action. These are the people who have basically refuted every single one of these predictions. They've overthrown them through their creativity. It is they who are the ultimate hero of the piece. Sir, wait till he gives you the microphone.
Was part of the motivation for the Nazis being against organic foods that the nitrogen fixing process had been invented by Dr. Faber, a Jewish scientist?
I don't think so. It was part of it that within the cultural milieu that they came out of, which included various pagan nature cults and anthroposophy, Rudolf Steiner, were all very much against modern agriculture. Hitler wouldn't touch non-organic food and was a strict vegetarian. Himmler and anyway.
Would you care to guess what the US would be like if we had not, also a Holocaust, we don't say it, killed the millions of American Indians?
Well, if the United States had not expanded and become a continental nation, it would not be a continental nation. But it is not true. Many American Indians died mostly of diseases caused by the advent of Europeans on the continent. I don't want to be an apologist for settler behavior with the Indians, but the fact of the matter is there was no organized campaign of genocide against American Indians. There are more American Indians alive today than there were at the time of Columbus. And at any time during the settlement of America, an Indian could walk into town and get a job. The Indians were displaced from their land as political entities. They were not targets of racial extermination. If you read Herman Melville's Moby Dick, one of the crew members is an Indian. So it was not motivated by that.
Without accepting any of the eugenics or Darwin or Malthus, does heredity have any role in acquiring traits?
Well, I'm sure that heredity has a role in acquiring traits. Okay, but it doesn't have the sole role in acquiring traits, and very frequently, it has been the case that people who have limited capabilities in one trait, it enhances another. I mean, look at who some of our most famous poets in history have been. Homer, Milton, they're both blind. Beethoven was deaf. Edison was deaf. If you say we're going to get rid of all these defective people, you're eliminating many unique talents. And in any case, the fact that you can do something doesn't mean that you should.
Hello. I recently had to chastise my university when they did a big promotion on their affiliation with Rachel Carson. They were doing a memorial on activities they did in the 60s. And I had I was bringing up the idea that, well, this Rachel Carson wasn't such a great person, the whole DT issue, everything you mentioned. And I just got back stunned silence. And I was wondering, what you're talking about is an anathema to any university education, and how do we bring this material to the university level to teach the average citizen to be a more critical thinker in regards to the environmental movement or other issues of the day?
Well, I think you have to bring home to them the human consequences of their actions. Whether it's stopping, let's say DDT had been harming the birds. Would it still be worth killing 100 million people? Or if you talk about cap and trade, okay, let's say there is global warming. Does that mean we should make energy more expensive, which is an extremely regressive tax on the world's poor? I think ultimately where you have to challenge them is, do you take human needs seriously or don't you? Okay? Because all of these things, look, these ideas, overpopulation, it's an incitement to genocide, is literally what it is. The idea of limited resources and we have to ration things. Well, who is it that always gets cut out of the limit? It's always the poor, it's always the weak, it's always the downtrodden that gets the shaft in the end. And these people need to decide where their values are. And you've got to say, look, we need to take this seriously here. Okay, is it right that 3 million Africans a year should die because people are pursuing an aesthetic consideration? Or any of these things of this sort. I think we have to challenge them on the level of reason, and I know it's not easy, believe me. But I think that's what we have to do. We have to make the case. And what I've tried to do in this book is say, look at this. Look at what you're doing. Look at what you've done. Look at what people who have thought like you have done. Look what this kind of thinking causes. So let's stop thinking this way. And I think I should wind it up there. Thank you.